People who work in the ocean have stories to tell for days about the strange things they find deep in the waters. And popular podcaster Joe Rogan has actively followed news about the shocking things being discovered in the world's oceans, and on one of his shows, he revealed the truth of what scientists encountered while working on one oil rig. What did the scientists discover and why was it so shocking? Stay tuned as we bring you all the details. Do you sometimes get exasperated by your neighbors and people living in your city? If you prefer extreme levels of isolation, you may want to try applying to work on offshore oil rigs, as these are some of the furthest human-made environments from land. For example, the Perdido oil platform is the furthest offshore oil platform in the world, located about 320 kilometers or 120 miles from the shore in the Gulf of Mexico. It is also the deepest floating oil platform in the world, operating at a water depth of about 2,450 meters or 8,040 feet. Perdido, which means lost in Spanish, is aptly named for its remote and challenging location. The platform is situated in the Perdido Fold Belt, a geological formation that holds rich reserves of crude oil and natural gas. However, accessing these resources requires drilling through complex and variable rock layers, some of which are over 10 kilometers or 6 miles thick. And if you think living and working on the Perdido oil platform is scary enough because of how lonely it can get, have you ever wondered how they are secured to the ocean floor? This job is highly risky and often turns up shocking discoveries, as Joe Rogan revealed on one of his podcast shows. What goes on down there can be very strange indeed. Even Rogan confessed he saluted the brave individuals that dive down to the bottom of the ocean to do this job. Now, oil rigs like the Perdido oil platform are massive structures that float on the surface of the water and produce oil and gas from deep-sea reservoirs. However, these rigs need to be securely anchored to the ocean floor to withstand strong currents, waves, and storms. This is where saturation divers come in. Saturation divers are professional deep-sea divers who descend to depths of 500 feet, 152 meters or more to service equipment on offshore oil rigs and undersea pipelines. They use a special breathing mixture of helium and oxygen to prevent nitrogen narcosis, a condition that causes confusion and impairment at high pressures. They also live in pressurized chambers on board the diving support vessel or the oil rig for weeks at a time to avoid repeated decompression and reduce the risk of decompression sickness. To attach an oil rig like Perdido to the ocean floor, saturation divers use a closed pressurized diving bell that transports them from their living quarters to the work site. The diving bell is connected to the surface by an umbilical cord that supplies breathing gas, power, communications, and hot water. The diving bell also has a hatch that allows the divers to exit and enter the water. The oil rig is anchored by mooring cables that are attached to piles driven into the sea floor. The piles are hollow steel tubes that are about 100 feet, 30 meters long, and 6 feet, 1.8 meters in diameter. The saturation divers use a hydraulic hammer to drive the piles into the seabed and then secure them with a grout. The divers also connect the mooring cables to the piles using shackles and clamps. In addition to this, the saturation divers install and maintain the risers and wellheads using various tools and equipment such as wrenches, torches, cameras, and ROVs, remotely operated vehicles. They also inspect and repair any leaks or damages that may occur due to corrosion, erosion, or fatigue. Saturation diving is a highly specialized and hazardous occupation that requires extensive training and certification. It also involves physical and psychological challenges, such as isolation, confinement, boredom, and stress. Imagine coming across things or creatures that you can't even describe while you are just trying to do your job. Scary, right?
Pull up that alien squid discovered near oil rig. So they had a camera deep under this oil rig, and they spotted this thing with these insane long appendages.
Imagine this type of creature swimming right up to you deep down in the ocean. This is how Rogan describes the animal.
Look at this.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, that's different. That's not what I thought you were talking about.
Look at the length of those. What are those things that dangle from it? What'd you call those things?
Tentacles? Legs?
Tentacles, legs. What is it? But look at the legs on it. It's like an insect.
Yeah, that's very bizarre.
See how they have very obvious bends. Video courtesy of Shell Oil Company.
Shale Oil Company is an offshore oil and gas exploration and production company that operates in the Gulf of Mexico. The company has several remote oil rigs that use underwater cameras to monitor the condition and performance of their equipment and pipelines. However, one of these cameras captured something unexpected and extraordinary: a really giant squid. A giant squid is a deep-sea creature that belongs to the genus Archaeteuthis. It is the largest invertebrate on Earth, with a body length of up to 43 feet or 13 meters and a weight of up to 1 ton. It has 8 arms and 2 longer feeding tentacles, which it uses to catch prey such as fish and other squids. It has large eyes about 10 inches or 25 centimeters in diameter that help it see in the dark depths. It also has a powerful beak and a ring of sharp teeth inside its mouth. Giant squids are elusive and mysterious animals that live in the deep sea between 1,000 and 3,000 feet or 300 to 900 meters below the surface. They are rarely seen by humans and are known mostly from carcasses that wash up on shore or found in the stomachs of sperm whales, their main predators. They have inspired legends and myths of sea monsters such as the kraken that terrorize sailors and ships. They have also fascinated scientists and explorers who have tried to learn more about their biology and behavior. However, despite their fame and curiosity, giant squids are very difficult to study in their natural habitat. They are fast and agile swimmers that can evade most fishing nets and hooks. They are also sensitive to light and sound, which makes them avoid most submersibles and cameras. Therefore, most of the information we have about giant squids comes from indirect sources such as DNA analysis, acoustic tracking, and computer modeling. This is why the footage captured by shale oil company is so rare and remarkable. It is one of the few instances where a live giant squid has been filmed in its natural environment without any human intervention or disturbance. The footage was taken by an underwater camera attached to a remote oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico at a depth of about 7,800 feet or 2,377 meters. The camera was set to record automatically every hour for 10 minutes as part of the routine maintenance check. And on June 15, 2022 at 3 a.m. local time, the camera recorded a huge dark shape moving slowly in the murky water with long tentacles trailing behind it. The shape was clearly recognizable as a giant squid. The creature approached the camera cautiously, then moved away, then came back again. It seemed to be curious about the camera, but not aggressive or frightened. It stayed in front of the camera for about 5 minutes, then disappeared into the darkness. The footage was uploaded to the company's server later that day, where it was noticed by one of the technicians. He immediately alerted his supervisor, who contacted the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. The museum confirmed that the footage was authentic and that it showed a giant squid. The museum also estimated that the squid was about 26 feet, 8 meters long, and that it was probably an adult female. The footage was then released to the public by Shale Oil Company with permission of the museum. The video went viral online, sparking curiosity and excitement among viewers. Many people praise Shale Oil Company for their discovery and for sharing it with the world. Many scientists expressed their interest and admiration for the footage, saying that it was a valuable contribution to our knowledge and appreciation of these amazing creatures. The footage also raised some questions and challenges for scientists, though. For example, why was the giant squid in that area? Was it looking for food or mates? How common are giant squids in the Gulf of Mexico? How do they interact with other marine animals and human activities? How do they cope with environmental changes such as climate change and pollution? To answer these questions, scientists need more data and observations of giant squids in their natural habitat. However, this is no easy task, as giant squids are still very elusive and hard to find. Therefore, scientists hope that more footage like this will be captured by other underwater cameras or devices in the future. And in addition to this, studying the deep ocean floor is also a huge challenge. The ocean floor is the vast and largely unknown realm that covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface. It's home to a diversity of life forms, geological features, mineral resources, and archaeological sites. It also plays a key role in regulating the climate, the water cycle, and the carbon cycle. Studying and mapping the ocean floor can help us better understand these aspects and address some of the global challenges we face today, such as sea level rise, natural hazards, biodiversity loss, and marine pollution. However, studying and mapping the deep ocean floor is not an easy task. It requires a combination of scientific expertise, technological innovation, and international collaboration. It also faces several physical, technical, and logistical challenges that make it one of the most difficult and expensive endeavors in science. One of the main challenges is the depth and pressure of the deep ocean. The average depth of the ocean is about 12,100 feet or 3,700 meters, but some parts can reach more than 36,000 feet or 11,000 meters, such as the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean. At these depths, the pressure can be more than 1,000 times that at sea level, which can crush most objects and instruments. The deep ocean is also dark, cold, and remote, making it hard to access and observe. To overcome these challenges, scientists use various tools and methods to study and map the deep ocean floor. One of these tools is sonar, or sound navigation and ranging, which uses sound waves to measure water depth and seafloor shape. Sonar can be attached to ships or submarines that travel along predetermined routes or grids. Sonar can also be mounted on satellites that orbit the Earth and measure the sea surface height, which reflects the seafloor topography. And another tool is a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, which is a robotic device that can be controlled from a ship or a shore station. ROVs can carry cameras, sensors, samplers, and manipulators to collect data and samples from the sea floor. ROVs can also deploy autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, which are self-propelled devices that can follow pre-programmed paths or react to their surroundings. A third tool is a manned submersible, which is a small submarine that can carry one or more people to explore the deep ocean. Manned submersibles can reach depths that are inaccessible to ROVs or AUVs. They can also provide direct observations and interactions with the seafloor environment. Yet, despite all these tools and methods, studying and mapping the deep ocean floor remains a challenge. According to a BBC News article, only about 19% of the global ocean floor has been mapped with modern standards as of 2020. This means that more than 80% of the sea floor is still unknown or poorly known. Meanwhile, Rogan reveals something else about these animals found in the deepest parts of the ocean. They could be of alien origin.
But look how weird it is, how it has like clear bends. Like when you see that thing underwater floating around like that looks like an alien.
Octopuses and squids are actually among the most fascinating and intelligent animals on Earth. They belong to the group of cephalopods, which also includes cuttlefish and nautiluses. They have some remarkable abilities, such as changing their shape, color, and texture, manipulating objects, solving problems, communicating with each other, and learning from experience. They also have complex nervous systems, large brains, and sophisticated eyes. However, these features also make them very different from other animals, especially from their closest relatives, the mollusks, which include snails, clams, and oysters. How did octopuses and squids evolve such unique traits, and why do they live such short lives despite their high intelligence? Well, some scientists have actually proposed the radical idea that octopuses and squids might have alien origins. They might have arrived on Earth from outer space, either as eggs or as viruses that infected primitive cephalopods and altered their DNA. This is based on the hypothesis of panspermia, which suggests that life on Earth was seeded by organic molecules or microorganisms that came from space, carried by comets, asteroids, or meteorites. This hypothesis has been around for centuries, but it gained more attention in the 1970s when two astronomers, Fred Hoyle and Chandra Vikram Singh, argued that life is a cosmic phenomenon and that interstellar dust contains the building blocks of life. And in 2018, a team of 33 researchers led by Australian molecular immunologist Edward J. Steele published a paper in the scientific journal Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology that revived the panspermia hypothesis and applied it to cephalopods. The paper was titled Cause of Cambrian Explosion, Terrestrial or Cosmic. The paper suggested that the Cambrian explosion, a sudden burst of biological diversity that occurred about 540 million years ago, was triggered by extraterrestrial influences. The paper claimed that some of the animals that appeared during this period, such as octopuses and squids, were too complex and too different from their ancestors to have evolved naturally on Earth. The paper proposed two possible scenarios for how octopuses and squids might have come from space. One scenario was that fertilized cephalopod eggs were delivered to Earth by a meteorite. The eggs survived the impact and hatched in the ocean, giving rise to a new lineage of cephalopods. The other scenario was that alien viruses crashed to Earth in a meteorite and infected primitive cephalopods, causing them to mutate and acquire new genes and traits. The paper cited several pieces of evidence to support these scenarios. One was the large genome size of octopuses and squids, which is much bigger than that of other mollusks and comparable to that of vertebrates. The paper suggested that this could be explained by horizontal gene transfer, HGT, a process in which an organism acquires genetic material from another organism without being its offspring. The paper argued that HGT could have occurred through viral infection or through contact with extraterrestrial organic matter. Another piece of evidence was the rapid evolution of octopuses and squids, which appeared relatively recently in the fossil record, about 270 million years ago. The paper suggested that this could be explained by punctuated equilibrium PE, a theory that proposes that evolution occurs in bursts of rapid change followed by long periods of stasis. The paper argued that PE could have been triggered by cosmic events such as meteor impacts or solar flares. A third piece of evidence was the remarkable intelligence of octopuses and squids, which is unmatched by any other invertebrate. The paper suggested that this could be explained by convergent evolution, CE, a phenomenon in which unrelated organisms evolve similar traits due to similar environmental pressures or challenges. The paper argued that CE could have occurred because octopuses and squids face similar cognitive demands as vertebrates, such as finding food, avoiding predators, and communicating with conspecifics. The paper concluded that octopuses and squids are likely to be aliens, and that they seem to be borrowed from a far distant future in terms of terrestrial evolution. The paper received a lot of criticism and ridicule from the scientific community, who dismissed it as unscientific and absurd. Many experts pointed out the flaws and gaps in the paper's arguments and evidence and accused the authors of cherry-picking data, ignoring alternative explanations, and making unfounded assumptions. For example, many experts argued that the large genome size of octopuses and squids is not a sign of alien origin, but a result of natural processes, such as gene duplication, transposable elements, and genome rearrangements. They also argued that HGT is not uncommon in nature and does not require extraterrestrial sources. Similarly, many experts argue that the rapid evolution of octopuses and squids is not a sign of alien origin, but a result of natural selection, adaptation, and diversification. They also argued that PE is not a valid theory, and that there is no evidence of cosmic events affecting cephalopod evolution. However, despite its flaws and controversies, this paper has some implications for science and society. One implication is that it challenges us to think about the origins and diversity of life on Earth and in the universe. It raises questions such as, how did life begin? How did it evolve? How common is it? How different can it be? How can we detect it? And how can we communicate with it? Another implication is that it stimulates our curiosity and imagination about the mysteries and wonders of nature. It invites us to explore the unknown and to appreciate the beauty and complexity of life. It also reminds us of the value and importance of scientific inquiry and evidence-based reasoning. A third implication is that it provokes our ethical and moral reflection about our relationship with other living beings. It challenges us to consider the rights and responsibilities of humans and non-humans, especially those that are intelligent and sentient. It also urges us to respect and protect the diversity and dignity of life on Earth and beyond.